Good afternoon, class. Welcome to 7.5. This is World War One. I'm just going to give you a real quick overview of World War One and the effects that come about because of the four main causes: militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. So what we see happening is that Europe is divided into two parts. You have the Allies and you have the Central Powers. The Central Powers being Germany, Austria, and the Ottomans or Turkey. And then the Allies being Great Britain, France, and Russia. So Germany is faced in 1914 with a two-front war. They've got Russia that's to the east, they've got France to the west. Now remember, nationalism, intense pride in one's country, imperialism. I'm bad enough and big enough, I can take on you. And Germany not only decides that they want to take on France, but they also decide they want to take on Russia as well. And the reason for this taking place is basically because this idea of nationalism and imperialism that Germany has. So there's this idea that's proposed by a German army general. His name is Schlieffen. And he comes up with what's known as the Schlieffen Plan. And it's designed to take on both France and Russia at the same time. They think, well, we'll quickly defeat France, and then as soon as we destroy France, we're going to come back and we're going to capture Russia. That was the idea. The German general believed that Russia was slow to mobilize because they did not have the industrialization that France did. Russia was having a shortage of railroads, and they just thought that France was more prepared than Russia. So they thought, honestly, we'll defeat France, and then we'll turn right around and we'll defeat Russia, and everything should be okay. Now, in order for the Schlieffen Plan to work, Germany has to get to France through this little country right here that is known as Belgium. And Belgium at this time is neutral, which means they do not want any part of the war. They're not on any side. It's just leave me alone. Just let us live our lives. We don't want to get involved. Belgium has an ally. That ally is Great Britain. So when Germany decides that they need to get to France through Belgium, and as soon as they step foot in Belgium's soil, well, Great Britain says you couldn't do that. That's wrong. Now we have to come into war. Now we're going to come and attack you because we have an alliance with Belgium. Germany actually invades Belgium. Great Britain declares war. Everything is going according to plan to Germany because they're marching right through Belgium. They're making their way into France. However, what they didn't count on was Russia. And Russia mobilizes much quicker than Germany ever thought. So now Germany has to take some of their troops from France and they have to send them over to Russia, which will weaken their army going into France. So now there's this two-front approach that Germany's having to do. They're at war with Russia to the east and France to the west, and they're having to divide their troops. So when Great Britain comes in, Great Britain now joining with France, so the German effort stalls. They wanted to accomplish their goal of capturing Paris. They're unable to. So therefore, what happens is we have this stalled approach, this stalled fighting, and they'll dig in, and the remaining 4 years of war is going to be a stalemate on this front right here. And they're going to fight in what's known as the trenches. And when we start thinking about this idea of trench warfare, what we are familiar with is this idea of something that's called no man's land. And this is the piece of land between both armies' trench lines where everything is destroyed. And basically, if you were to enter into that area trying to get into the other side, you're going to be met with barbed wire, landmines, machine gun fire, and it was basically, there was no way that you were going to be able to get to the other side. So you're basically just fighting in trenches for 4 years and not gaining any ground and just losing life after life after life. Add to that, that life in the trenches was extremely difficult. There was no bathrooms. That's where you ate. That's where you slept. That's where you basically lived while you were on duty. And so it was cold. It was nasty. You've got rodents, all kinds of just disease that starts to happen. So a lot of people will lose their lives through disease and not necessarily through gunfire. So while there's a stalemate going on there, Germany now is going towards Russia. We see new weapons that take place, machine guns, artillery. We have poison gas that comes in, and this poison gas will burn the skin. And just to share with you a little bit of what happens, we use dogs that would go first, and they would put masks on. They were more willing to use dogs than they were humans. And as we see this take place, we start to see some devastating effects of this. You can see some of the burns that happens from the poison gas that would affect individuals. We have tanks, airplanes, U-boats, German submarines that start to take place, hand grenades, landmines. Well, the tide begins to turn in 1917, and this is a real quick overview because we don't have time to go into all of the details, but in 1917, due to horrible military defeats that Russia was experiencing out of against the Germans, they've got hunger. There's chaos within Russia. There's this revolution that begins in 1917. And this leader, whose name is Vladimir Lenin, he comes in and says, look, the last thing that we need to do is be involved in war. We've got to deal with our own country, our own issues. And so Russia pulls out of the war. They negotiate a treaty with Germany and they withdraw. Why is this an issue? Why does this upset the Allies? Because what had happened was Russia was an ally to the Allied powers. So when they quit, now Russia can take its troops that were fighting over in Russia, or excuse me, Germany can take their troops that were fighting in Russia and send them back to the lines of France. Great Britain, France, they now have lost a tremendous ally in the Russians. We now have issues that are going to happen. And so to the rescue will come the Americans. The Americans will come in because the Germans will start sinking large ocean liners such as the Lusitania. They are doing what's known as unrestricted warfare. So in 1917, neutral United States declares war on Germany for many reasons. And it's important to understand why America comes into this. Now notice, the war starts in 1914. America remains neutral until 1917. Now, the reason that they come in, they are joined because of cultural ties. They have the same language as Great Britain. They have the same traditions as Great Britain. They have democracy like Great Britain. So they have more similarities with the Allies than they do with the Central Powers. There's not a lot of similarities with Germany. Also, we have this thing that's known as the Zimmermann Note. And with the Zimmermann Note, the British intercepted a message from a guy whose name was Arthur Zimmermann. He was the German foreign minister to the ambassador in Mexico. And Zimmermann comes in and says, hey, we, Germany, need some help. And if you, Mexico, will keep America out of the war, so start little battles over there near the Texas border, and if you'll fight them so that we can win the war over here in Europe and keep America out, then I promise you, says Germany, that we will come to you, Mexico, and we will help you conquer such states as New Mexico, Texas, and Arizona, which America basically stole from you. So Germany is trying to get Mexico to divert the attention of the Americans. Focus on a war with Mexico so that we can defeat the British and the French, and then we'll come over to Mexico and we'll help you defeat the Americans. The Americans find out about this, and when the Americans find out about it, it causes the Americans to want to get involved, And when the Americans come in, they are going to be extremely powerful. And Germany is exhausted. Remember, they've been fighting since 1914. The Americans come in 1917, fresh, full of resources, supplies, ammunition, guns, whatever it is needed. And so they begin to push back the Germans. And Germany is going to be defeated. And as Germany is getting beat, the German people are hungry, they're without work, and they begin revolting against this guy here whose name is Kaiser Wilhelm. And Kaiser Wilhelm basically says, oh my gosh, there's mutiny. I don't know what to do. I'm getting out of here. I'm leaving. In Germany, you can do what you want. And basically, what Germany is going to want to do is they're going to want to end the war. The war ends at 11 a.m. on November the 11th, 1918. And that is why today, every November the 11th, we celebrate Veterans Day. It's a reminder to us that the war ended, but it's also a reminder of those who lost their lives in this terrible war. Well, we now have some American issues that kind of come in. Woodrow Wilson is an American history thing. We won't really talk about that, but what we do want to talk about is this idea known as the Treaty of Versailles as we close. Because it's important to know the Treaty of Versailles. It is signed in June of 1919. It officially ends World War I. And I want you to pay attention to what the requirements were with the Treaty of Versailles. Number one, Germany was forced to accept all blame for World War I. Now go back and remember, who started World War I? It wasn't the Germans. It was the Austrians and the Serbians. Remember, they started this. The Serbians assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand. But notice that Germany, because of imperialism and nationalism, take this on. Now they're forced to accept all the blame. Yeah, we caused it. We started it. So they have to accept all the blame. The second thing, Germany had to pay back $33 billion. That's $350 billion in today's money. They had to give that money to France, to Great Britain, to America, to Russia, to all of these other countries that had been involved in the war. So basically, you started the war is your fault, now you're going to pay us all money. But what didn't Germany have? They didn't have money. The workers were out of work. The nation had been ravaged in war for 4 years. They didn't have the money. But yet part of the deal was, you're going to pay $33 billion. The third thing, Germany had to reduce its military. They had to get rid of planes and tanks and ammunition. They had to reduce it because the thought was, if we reduce this Germany's ability to have military, they'll never rear their ugly head again. So we want to reduce them, squash them, remove them. The fourth thing, Germany had to give up territory to France and Poland. So all of this land that they had conquered, all of this land that they had received, they have to give it up. And you're going to start seeing new countries come about because of this. So Germany is reduced in military, reduced financially. They're going to be reduced in land by giving back land to France and Poland. Also, they had to give up overseas colonies as well. So we're basically reducing Germany to nothing. Good way to remember this, is basically understanding that they have to accept blame, they have to reduce their military, they have to give back money, $33 billion, and they have to give up their land. Now, Germany is not going to be happy with this. And not only is Germany not going to be happy with this, but it's going to lead to the rise of an individual who says, shame, shame, shame on the world for what they've done to Germany. Let me see if I can help. And that individual who comes to help the furious Germans is an individual who's an Austrian corporal, not a German, but an Austrian corporal who comes in, and his name is Adolf Hitler. Just notice, 1 in every 4 soldiers involved dies in this war. More are maimed, which lost limbs, vision, burn. We see PTSD come about, and Europe basically lies in ruins. This is what happens when nations go to war concerning imperialism and nationalism.